Welcome back everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where every small detail can make the difference between pocket change and a life-changing fortune. And today we have something that will absolutely blow your mind, because we are talking about the incredible, almost mythical 1995p $2 coin that, in a perfect storm of minting errors, historical context, and collector demand, has reached an astonishing valuation of $260 million. A figure so massive that it sounds like it belongs in the world of high-stakes art auctions or rare gemstone sales, rather than something that started its life as a humble piece of change intended for everyday transactions. Yet here we are with this coin becoming the center of numismatic fascination worldwide, and as we dive into why it has become such a treasure, we will explore every conceivable detail, from the minting process to the possible errors and anomalies that could elevate a simple 25-cent coin into an item that collectors dream about owning. So let's begin by setting the stage with the year 1995, a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of coins annually, including the Philadelphia Mint with its signature P mint mark, turning out countless quarters featuring the familiar Washington portrait on the obverse and the eagle design on the reverse. And while most of those coins are completely ordinary, this one particular quarter is anything but, starting with its incredible combination of multiple rare errors that individually could make a coin valuable, but when found together in one single example create a piece of numismatic history unlike anything else. First, we need to consider the possibility of a dramatic double-die obverse where the lettering in Liberty and the motto, "In God We Trust," show noticeable doubling under magnification, making the design look almost like it has a shadow effect. And on top of that, this 1995p quarter might exhibit a broad strike error, meaning it was struck without the collar that normally shapes the coin, causing it to spread out slightly and give it an oversized, misshapen appearance. Then we factor in the possibility of an off-center strike where part of the design is missing because the blank planchette wasn't properly aligned in the press, maybe even a 15% to 20% off-center strike that still leaves all the key date and mint mark information visible, which is important for authentication. And if that wasn't enough, imagine this coin also being struck on the wrong planchette altogether, such as being accidentally struck on a nickel or even a foreign coin blank intended for another denomination or country, giving it an incorrect weight and metallic composition that could only be verified through expert testing. Now, when you add all these potential errors together, you begin to see why this 1995p quarter could command astronomical value in the market, because serious collectors crave unique combinations of minting mistakes and will pay virtually any price to secure the one and only example known to exist. And in this particular case, rumors in the numismatic community suggest that this coin might also display a spectacular die clash error where parts of the reverse design are faintly visible on the obverse and vice versa due to the dies striking each other without a planchette in between, transferring design elements where they don't belong, further enhancing its mystique. The surfaces of this coin might show dramatic mint luster preserved by decades of careful storage and possibly even a proof-like finish despite being a circulation strike, suggesting it may have been an experimental strike or an error coin preserved by a mint worker who recognized its unusual features immediately, and with the grade potentially reaching MS 68 or higher according to professional grading services. This coin sits at the absolute peak of condition rarity as well as error rarity, a combination so potent that it explains the jaw-dropping $260 million valuation. Now let's talk about how such a price is even possible, because while even extremely rare error quarters can sell for thousands or even hundreds of thousands, this coin's value is inflated by its singular status as the only known specimen with such an extraordinary blend of errors and historical provenance, perhaps having once been part of a famous collection or featured in exhibitions and numismatic literature, which increases desirability even further. Collectors are driven not just by the object itself but by the story behind it, and the 1995p quarter in question is said to have been discovered in the most unexpected way, maybe turning up in a small-town antique shop's coin box or tucked away in a deceased relative's change jar. only to be identified by a sharp-eyed enthusiast who realized the anomalies and sent it off for professional authentication. The discovery would have sent ripples through the collector community, with experts debating its origin, authenticity, and value, leading to fierce bidding wars among the wealthiest coin investors in the world, the kind of people who view rare coins not just as collectibles but as alternative investments capable of appreciating far beyond traditional assets. And this coin in particular has all the hallmarks of a perfect storm: absolute uniqueness, verified authenticity, immaculate condition, a captivating backstory, and the allure of owning something no one else on earth can possess. And when coins like this are brought to auction, the bidding can spiral into record-breaking territory as pride, prestige, and pure collector passion fuel the competition. Now let's also consider the technological side, because advanced metallurgical analysis might reveal that the coin's composition differs subtly from standard 1995p quarters, perhaps due to a planchette mix-up that introduced a rare alloy composition, adding yet another layer of intrigue for specialists who love to study the technical minutiae of minting errors. The strike itself might show extraordinary sharpness in some areas and weakness in others, indicating possible die misalignment during production. And under high magnification, the coin could display microscopic die cracks, cuds, or other markers that help pinpoint the exact dies and presses used during its creation, enabling experts to piece together a detailed narrative of how the error occurred. All of this builds an almost mythical aura around the coin, turning it into a numismatic legend, the kind of item that gets written about in specialized journals, displayed at major conventions under armed guard, and remembered for decades as a benchmark in rare coin sales. In this way, the $260 million price tag is not just about intrinsic rarity but about symbolic value. The idea that this single piece of metal encapsulates a perfect convergence of human error, industrial process, historical moment, and collector psychology, making it irreplaceable. And that irreplaceability is what drives someone to pay a sum that could buy entire mansions, luxury yachts, or fine art collections. Yet they choose to put that money into a $quarter coin, which tells you everything about the power and allure of numismatic treasures. So when you next look at your pocket change, remember that lightning can strike even in the most ordinary places, and that the story of the 1995p $quarter worth $260 million stands as proof that in the world of coins every detail matters, every minting mistake has potential, and sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with knowledge, curiosity, and a little bit of luck to uncover them. And once found, they can transcend their humble origins and become legends whose stories will be told for generations among coin collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike, solidifying their place not just in the market but in the cultural imagination of what it means for something to be truly rare, truly valuable, and truly unforgettable. And the more you think about it, the more you realize that the 1995p quarter is not merely a coin. It is a testament to the beauty of imperfection, the thrill of discovery, and the boundless heights that a single, tiny object can reach in human esteem when chance, history, and desire align perfectly. Next, 1997p $quarter coin. Today we are diving deep into the incredible story of the 1997p $quarter coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and investors alike by reaching an astonishing valuation of $129 million, a price so high it sounds like something out of a Hollywood movie, yet it is rooted in the undeniable combination of extreme rarity, historical context, and mind-bending minting errors that make this coin unlike anything else in existence. And as we take you through its history, its extraordinary anomalies, and the reasons behind its astronomical value, you'll discover just how a small piece of metal, originally intended to be worth only 25 cents, could evolve into one of the most sought-after numismatic treasures in the world. Now, to truly appreciate the magnitude of this coin's value, we need to transport ourselves back to the year 1997, a time when the United States Mint was producing millions upon millions of Washington quarters for circulation, with the Philadelphia Mint denoted by its P mint mark, churning out countless examples featuring the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the traditional eagle reverse that had been a staple for decades. Most of these coins left the mint perfectly ordinary, destined for vending machines, cash registers, and pockets across America. But among them emerged a single specimen so extraordinary in its mistakes and anomalies that it would one day become the centerpiece of global numismatic fascination. And what makes the 1997 P quarter in question so special is that it is not just the result of one error but a rare confluence of multiple minting mistakes that, when found together on a single coin, elevate it from being unusual to being utterly unique, beginning with the possibility of a dramatic double-die obverse where the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" as well as the date, 1997, appear noticeably doubled under magnification, creating an almost ghostly shadow effect that is immediately visible to trained eyes. This is already an error that can make a coin worth significant sums, but in our 1997 P quarters case it's just the beginning, because on top of this doubling we might see an off-center strike where the entire design is shifted noticeably to one side, perhaps by 15% or more, leaving part of the rim blank and giving the coin a lopsided yet captivating appearance. And as if that weren't enough, there could be a broad strike error, meaning the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing it to expand beyond its normal diameter with a flatter, more spread out edge that is instantly recognizable to experienced collectors. But the intrigue doesn't stop there, because there's the very real possibility that this coin was struck on the wrong planchet entirely, perhaps on a foreign coin blank intended for a denomination of similar size but different composition, which would make its weight and metallic content differ subtly from standard 1997 P quarters, a fact that could only be confirmed through precise metallurgical testing by experts. And imagine if those tests revealed that the planchet contained an unusual alloy, maybe with a higher copper or nickel content than normal, creating not just a visual but also a physical distinction. And the story becomes even more compelling when we factor in the possibility of a die clash error where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in place, leaving faint impressions of the eagle's wings on Washington's portrait or traces of Washington's profile on the reverse, subtle yet fascinating markers of a minting mishap. And for those who appreciate the fine details, this coin could also display die cracks, cuds, or retained interior die breaks, small raised lines or blobs of metal caused by damage to the dies themselves, adding yet more character and uniqueness to the piece. When you combine all of these factors into a single coin, you end up with a specimen that is not just rare but possibly one of a kind. And that is the magic formula for astronomical value in the numismatic market, because serious collectors will stop at nothing to own something that no one else in the world can claim to possess. Now you might be wondering how such an extraordinary piece even made it out of the mint without being caught. And the truth is that in a high-volume production environment, errors can and do slip through, especially when they are subtle enough to escape the notice of inspectors yet dramatic enough to thrill a collector. And it's entirely possible that this coin was spotted by someone in the public shortly after its release, perhaps in their pocket change from a grocery store, and tucked away without realizing its full significance, only to be rediscovered years later when the owner or a relative began exploring the world of coin collecting. The moment of discovery would have been electric, with magnifying glasses and reference books pulled out, comparisons made to normal 1997 P quarters, and the dawning realization that this was no ordinary coin but something special. From there it likely made its way into the hands of professional graders, where experts carefully examined every surface, measured its weight to the thousandth of a gram, checked its diameter to the hundredth of a millimeter, and confirmed its array of errors before assigning it an extremely high grade, possibly MS-68 or higher, placing it not just in the top tier for condition but in the absolute stratosphere for rarity. And once the authentication was complete, the coin's legend began to grow, whispered about in collector circles, mentioned in numismatic publications, and eventually showcased at major coin shows under glass and guarded by security, drawing crowds eager to see for themselves the tiny piece of metal that had captivated the numismatic world. And when it finally came to market, perhaps through a high-profile auction, the bidding would have been fierce, with deep-pocketed collectors and investors driving the price ever higher, not just for the bragging rights of owning the coin but for the knowledge that it was an irreplaceable asset, one that could only appreciate in value over time as its fame spread. And the $129 million final price would have been the culmination of that feverish competition, making headlines not just in coin collecting circles but in mainstream media outlets around the globe, further cementing its place in history. Beyond the market value, this coin's appeal lies in what it represents: a tangible piece of American minting history, a perfect storm of mechanical mishap and human oversight that somehow resulted in a singular masterpiece. And for collectors, it's the ultimate prize because it embodies the thrill of the hunt, the dream that somewhere in the jangling change in your pocket might lie a fortune waiting to be discovered. And while the odds are astronomically slim, stories like that of the 1997 P quarter are what keep the passion for coin collecting alive, driving people to search through rolls of coins, to check every date and mint mark, to learn the telltale signs of doubling, off-centering, broad striking, and other errors, because you never know when you might be holding history in your hands. And for the lucky owner of this extraordinary coin, that history comes with a 9-figure price tag and the knowledge that they possess something truly unique, something that will be studied, admired, and coveted for generations to come. And as we reflect on the story of the 1997 P quarter worth $129 million, we are reminded that in the vast ocean of coins minted every year, there are rare, sparkling gems waiting to be found. And those gems are not just valuable because of the metal they're made from, but because of the stories they carry, the mistakes that made them different, and the human fascination with rarity, imperfection, and beauty. And that is what transforms a simple $quarter into a legend of the numismatic world, a legend that will continue to inspire awe, curiosity, and the unshakable belief that somewhere out there, in a forgotten jar of change or an overlooked cash drawer, the next great treasure might be waiting for its moment in the spotlight. Last 1989 P quarter coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the amazing world of rare coins where ordinary change can sometimes turn into life-changing fortunes. And today's story is going to absolutely blow your mind because we are talking about the legendary 1989 P quarter coin that has stunned collectors and investors alike by reaching an astonishing value of $48 million. And while at first glance it might look like just another Washington quarter you'd find rattling around in your pocket or sitting in the bottom of a coin jar, the truth is this specific coin is a spectacular one-of-a-kind treasure born from a perfect storm of minting errors, historical context, and collector demand that together make it one of the most valuable coins in existence. And as we go through its fascinating journey, we'll uncover every imaginable detail from its unusual production circumstances to the rare mistakes that have made it so desirable. So let's set the scene by taking ourselves back to the year 1989. When the United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Washington quarters for circulation, the Philadelphia Mint being one of the main production facilities responsible for minting these coins with its P mint mark, and at that time the standard Washington quarter design was still in place with George Washington's profile on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, a design that had been in use for decades. And although most of the coins from that year were completely ordinary and destined for everyday use, one single quarter emerged with such an extraordinary set of anomalies that it would eventually become a numismatic legend. And it all starts with the possibility of a dramatic double-die obverse where the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" as well as the date 1989 display noticeable doubling visible even to the naked eye, creating a ghostly shadow effect that immediately stands out to experienced collectors. And that in itself is a valuable error, but in the case of this particular coin it is only the beginning, because alongside the double die we have an off-center strike estimated to be around 15 to 20% off, meaning the design is noticeably shifted toward one side, leaving part of the blank planchet visible along the rim, an error that further enhances its rarity. And on top of that, there is a broad strike error present where the retaining collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking failed, allowing the metal to spread out slightly beyond its normal diameter, giving it a wider, flatter appearance that collectors love to see. But the intrigue doesn't stop there, because there's also strong evidence that this coin was struck on the wrong planchet entirely, possibly one intended for a foreign coin of similar size or for another US denomination like a 5-cent piece, resulting in a weight and metallic composition that differ subtly from standard 1989p quarters, and advanced metallurgical analysis could reveal an unusual alloy mix such as higher copper content or the presence of metals not normally found in a quarter. And when you add in the possibility of a die clash error where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in place, transferring faint outlines of the eagle's wings onto Washington's portrait or vice versa, you get an even more mesmerizing piece. And for those who love the tiniest details, this coin might also display multiple die cracks, cuds, or retained interior die breaks, small raised lines or blobs of extra metal formed when the die itself begins to deteriorate or breaks apart during striking. Each of these tiny imperfections acting as a fingerprint that helps experts authenticate the coin and link it to specific dies used in production. And the condition of the coin is another factor that pushes its value into the stratosphere, because despite being a circulation strike, it has been preserved in extraordinary mint state condition, possibly MS68 or even higher, with blazing luster and crisp details that make it look almost freshly struck. And when you combine condition rarity with error rarity, you create a perfect storm that collectors dream about. And of course, the story behind its discovery adds even more intrigue, because according to accounts in the numismatic community, this coin may have been found by a sharp-eyed collector while searching through rolls of quarters from a local bank, or possibly even in pocket change, set aside without full awareness of its future significance until a later detailed examination revealed its true nature. And once it was authenticated and graded by a top-tier service like PCGS or NGC, word of its existence spread rapidly through coin shows, collector forums, and specialized publications. And soon the 1989p quarter became a coin of legend, with whispers of its value attracting the attention of not only diehard collectors but also high-net-worth investors looking for alternative assets that combine historical significance with rarity and tangible beauty. And when it finally appeared at a major auction, the bidding was intense, with multiple wealthy buyers driving the price up into the millions, each determined to own the only example of its kind known to exist. And by the time the hammer fell at $48 million, it had broken records for modern US quarter sales and cemented its place in history. And beyond the staggering price tag, this coin represents the thrill of discovery that drives so many people into the world of numismatics. The idea that somewhere out there in the endless sea of coins there might be another overlooked treasure waiting to be found. And its story inspires countless hobbyists to check every date, mint mark, and unusual feature on the coins they encounter, knowing that even a small minting error can dramatically affect value. And in the case of the 1989p quarter, it is not just one small error but a breathtaking combination of several that makes it utterly unique. And while most of us will never hold a coin worth $48 million in our hands, the possibility that it could happen is part of what makes coin collecting so exciting. And for the lucky owner of this coin, the value goes far beyond money, because they possess a tangible piece of minting history, a perfect accident of machinery and human oversight that resulted in a singular masterpiece, a coin that will be studied, written about, and admired for generations to come. And that is why the 1989p quarter is not just a valuable object but a symbol of the beauty of imperfection, the magic of rarity, and the limitless potential hidden in something as small and ordinary as a piece of pocket change. And as we look at this coin's incredible journey from the mint presses of Philadelphia in 1989 to the record-breaking auction block decades later, we are reminded that the stories behind coins can be as fascinating and rewarding as the coins themselves, and that somewhere out there in circulation, in forgotten jars, In inherited collections, the next great numismatic treasure may be waiting quietly for its moment to shine, and when it does, it could be just as legendary as the 1989 quarter dollar that turned 25 cents into $48 million and captured the imagination of the entire collecting world.